YouTube, Down the Bricks here, back with another vlog. Got a quick little update here to start with, and yes, I do sound a little bit funny. I am under the weather. I think I've been pushing a little bit too hard, and yeah, I've got myself a bit crooked, but yeah, unfortunately I can't really take any time off to rest because I really want to just keep pushing on with this project. So let's take a look at Whooshka! Have a look at this, 2 new tanks. Now, just first of all, have a look at what a shit show I've got going on here. I tell you, just got crap everywhere. So I'm trying not to trip over stuff as we go. I could have cleaned up, but nah, who wants to do that? We just keep pushing on. So, new 6 foot tank, 6 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot high. My new big tank, it is 8 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot 8 inches, 800mm wide. So you can see, sticks out a bit. Have a look at this, holy dooly, this is huge. Loving it. So now, before I do anything, I've started to play around with filtration a little bit, what I'm going to do, which this one's going to be under gravel, as you can see there. If you know about under gravel, I'll explain that more as the process goes on. But first of all, before I get carried away doing too much, I've got to do a water test, don't I? So I've got to fill both of these and we'll see how that goes. So fingers crossed everything is a-okay. So I'm going to go and do that right now. I might even come back and show you with some water in there, hopefully. I just chewed my fingers to the bone. It's a nerve-wracking time, I tell you. From picking the tanks up, putting them on utes, strapping them down, transporting them, putting them on stands that never been tested before. I'm pretty sound in my ability on the stands, but it's still a testing time, and then finally filling them with water. Whew, I tell you, but they're now full. So it took me about an hour. I've got 3 different types of water sources here. So I have separate rainwater storage to the house, I've got rainwater storage to the yard, and I've got bore water as a backup as well. So I filled the big tank from the yard rainwater because it's on a bigger pump, so it filled a lot quicker. So it actually filled at the same time. Took me almost an hour to fill them. So and I filled this one with bore water. So the plan now is to just let them sit for a while. This is a Sunday, so it's my last day for the weekend. So I'll let them sit till next weekend. This is a good chance to just let them soak a little bit, test them out, and then give them a big clean up, because there's a lot of chemicals involved, in the cleanup of the silicone and everything. So it just gives a chance to give them a good clean. So I'll be dunking all the glass lids in the water, giving them a clean, wiping all the sides down, give it a good clean out. Then I'll drain them completely out again, and then I'll start setting them up with all the gravel and the filtration and everything. So next weekend, I've actually got to help a mate build his deck. He's putting a deck in on his patio, so I'm going to help him do that on the Saturday, and then on the Sunday I'm hoping I can start at least get a good start on setting this tank up. I really want to get this tank set up and start trying to get some of my fish out of the pond into here, because I'm just really concerned about the fish in the pond. I mean, I keep an eye on them as best as I can. Sorry, it's a bit hard for me to talk at the moment, but just being in a black pond and that, it's just very hard. When I feed them, I stand there, I try and look for every fish and make sure they're all there, but it's very hard to see exactly what's happening in case one's got a wound or something. You just can't see. So I'm very concerned with those fish. So I want to get those out first. Whereas these guys here, they're fine. I'm doing weekly water changes on these guys. I kind of feel like they're a little bit cramped in there, but realistically they would be okay in this size tank, forever and a day if you maintain them right. But yeah, I'm really concerned about my big fish in the pond, so I want to start getting them out. So this is going to be my first project, is setting this tank up. But yeah, so we'll see how that goes, and we'll come back when that's all happening. I'm making a start here on setting up this 8-foot tank. So what I've done is I've filled it as I've shown, tested it out, all good, and then I've cleaned everything. So I've cleaned the inside. I haven't cleaned the outside yet. I'll do that as a last thing, but I've cleaned the inside, so it's all looking good, and I've set up my filtration. Now I'm just going to go through it very quickly for people that might be interested in it. What type of filtration I'm using. So I'm very old school when it comes to my aquariums. I've been doing it for a very long time, and I'm still a big believer in under gravel filter systems, which is something that's quite outdated now and is actually quite frowned upon by the aquarium community in a lot of aspects. But to me, it's a very misunderstood filtration system. It's something that was used pretty much wholly and solely. If we go back a number of years, if you go back to the 80s and 90s, under gravel filters were what was mainly used in aquariums. There were box filters and air pumps, things like that, but primarily a lot of people used under gravel filtration. And there's a few points why people don't believe in it anymore, and it's actually getting something that's very hard to get. And my filter plates here, so this is an under gravel filter, and my filter plates here are getting very old. I'm getting a little bit concerned with them because they're getting a little bit brittle. I was actually going to try and make up my own because they're getting very, very hard to get. There's not many places make them anymore, and what happens is I have these little uprights here. So this little upright, this plastic tubing here, what happens in the old system, they slot into these grooves here, and what happens, because they're getting brittle, they tend to break off and then they just sort of flop around, and you lose the effectiveness. So what I've actually done, I've actually made up my own upright. So I've used silicone and perspex and some plumbing pieces, and I've actually made it nice and secure, and I'm able to use this nice clear PVC tubing. So the guts of the system on how it works is it's pretty simple. All it does is you put a pump on top, a power head. So let me get in a bit closer here. You put a power head on top of the tubing, and obviously your water all flows out here. So basically it sucks the water down through your gravel and back up through the upright. Very, very simple. And what happens, all your bacteria, all your good bacteria that you need in any filtration system, all lives in your gravel. So where people use canister filters, and I'll be using canister filters in the other tank, so I can show you that method as well, they're actually a little bit limited in the surface area that your bacteria can grow on. Whereas if you have a look here, I'm using 8 feet of filter plates. Imagine all the gravel on top of there, how much surface area that gives for bacteria to grow on. It is far superior surface area than any other filtration system other than probably a sump. So why don't people like them anymore? Well, a lot of people have a belief that all the gunk, all the fish poo and all the waste gets trapped under the filter plates and clogs up, and you can never remove it, and they have a hard time thinking that having all that waste and that under your filter plates is a bad thing or is a good thing. They have a hard time just getting past that. But there's a lot of ways you can minimize that, and one is doing lots of gravel cleaning. So that's what I do. Once a month I will be gravel cleaning this tank, and that's using a little plastic tube, or not a little, about a 2-inch plastic tube, and you put a hose on the end, and as it's draining the water out, you just stick it in the sand and it just sucks all that gunk out of the gravel and keeps the gravel nice and clean and minimises the amount of waste that goes in underneath. Now, I actually believe that gunk underneath is beneficial to some degree. You don't want heaps and heaps of it, but some of it isn't too bad. Now, I had these tanks set up for 3 years, I believe, before I broke them down to set up these new tanks. When I took the filter plates out, there was a little bit of gunk under there, but not a hell of a lot. So it just reconfirms my belief in these under gravel systems. The main reason, I'll tell you the main reason why people don't like the under gravel system anymore is because of the people that actually make our filtration system. Because you know what? It's simple, it's cheap, and you don't need to do anything to it to maintain them other than cleaning. And manufacturers, they don't like that because they can't sell you any more product. They can't sell you filter wool, they can't sell you filter plates, they can't sell you any more media, they can't sell you a new filter every few years when your other ones break down. So there's been a big push from the manufacturers of these filter systems to actually bag out under gravel's filter systems and give them a bad name. So I've done this for a long time, and it's a pretty healthy argument still to this day with even some of the old timers. But a lot of us, and a very good percentage of people that use under gravel filters in the past, are still firm believers in its use. And I mean, I got fish to prove it, and that's what I look at. I look at the health of my fish, the longevity of my fish. I mean, I've kept cichlids for up to 20 years, 15, 20 years, and not everybody can say that. Let me give you the drum. So I'm in the process now. I've set it up, I've put my new uprights, they're nice and sturdy, and now I'm going to clean all my gravel, and I'm going to get this all filled up with gravel. Now the two tanks that I broke down, the 6 foot and the 5 foot that I had there, that gravel is just enough, I reckon, to do that. Well, it should be enough to do this tank. Now, let me just quickly explain to you. So I have 2 power heads here that suck up the tube, so the water will pull down through the filter plates, back up these tubes. That's these 2 higher ones. Then I've got this other one here with these canister type fittings on here, which is a bit of one I've just made up. Now for me, this filter system here, it's not really a filtration system so much. This is my pH buffer system. So my water is quite acidic, so I need something to buffer the water and bring it back up to an alkaline or to a neutral pH. So in those, and I don't know if we can see it, you may just see it down here if I can zoom in on there, if I can get in close. I have coral rubble in here, and coral rubble, it turns acidic water into alkaline water. So because of this volume of water, it won't necessarily make it alkaline, but it will increase the pH. So instead of my acidic water at about 6, it'll lift it up to a neutral pH of 7-ish, somewhere around there. Of course, it does vary slightly depending how new that coral is. So what I'll do is, I'll just monitor it now. I'm thinking probably every 2 months I'll have to fill these back up with coral rubble. Now they're chockers with coral rubble at the moment. In 2 months or in a month, or whatever it takes, I'll just keep an eye on it. When I open these up to refill them, probably half or more will be gone because it just gets eaten away from the acidic water, and that helps buffer my water to a neutral pH. So a lot of jargon there that a lot of people won't understand, but if you're into fish tanks, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's a very cheap to run, a very effective filtration system in my belief, and I will never ever be convinced otherwise because I've used it a hell of a lot. A couple of drawbacks that it has: yes, you have to gravel clean regularly, so filter maintenance. Any filtration system needs maintenance. So while it might be a negative, it's a negative that every filtration system has to some degree. One of the other negatives is you are limited in the type of substrate you can use in your aquarium. So you can see this substrate here. Let me get in there and get a handful of it. It is pebbly rock. Okay, so it's like 4 to 6 mil pebble. So you need something that's a little bit coarser that won't go through your filter plate, so you can't use sand. And a lot of people like to use sand in their aquariums, and that is why I'm going to be using canister filters in this tank, because I'm going to use a combination of gravel and sand in this tank. So because of that, I can't use under gravel filters, otherwise I'd be there in a heartbeat, I can tell you that, because they are very cheap to run. Now let's see if I can see some stats here. I don't know, I'm just going to try and, because I can't get my head over there, I can't look through the viewfinder here. Oh, I'm not doing a very good job at aiming. I can't sort of read that information. I don't know. Where am I going? I'm bloody bad with aiming here. I can't read that. You may be able to read it. I think that these are about 25 watts. I think this one might be about 20 watts, 25 watts. So let's just say we're looking at less than 100 watts to run the filtration system, which is not a lot for a big tank like this. For this tank, just to give you an idea, the canister filters with a UV system runs at about 54, I believe. It's 9 watts for the UV, 45 watts for the motor. So it runs at 54 watts. So there's going to be 2 of those. So you're looking at over 100 watts to run this tank, compared to less than 100 watts for this tank. So just to give you an idea, and the water volume is virtually double on this tank to that tank. So just to give you some idea, double the water volume but less wattage to run the filtration. So that's pretty impressive. Okay, I've talked a lot of jargon there, and hopefully I've made it interesting enough just to give you an idea of filtration. If anyone's got any questions on that and would like to know more, ask me in the comments, because I love talking about filtration and fish tanks. So I'm happy to have a chat with you, give you some more information, or any questions. If you're a fish person and want to know more, yeah, let me know, and we can have a good old chat about that. But I'm going to go back outside now. I'm going to show you what I'm dealing with here. You can see out there, sun is going down, and I want to try and get a bit more gravel clean. So I'm going to pull the finger out and get out there and see if I can get, that's 2 buckets. I have got 2 massive tubs, and that's 2 buckets. So I don't know how many buckets it's going to be, but it's a hell of a lot. So I'm going to make a bit of a start today, do a little bit more tomorrow afternoon, and yeah, just try and do a bit in the afternoons during the week, just to help me keep moving with all these projects I got. And yeah, I don't so sorry if you can hear it in my voice. Yeah, I'm still trying to get over this this lurgy that I've got. So I feel alright now, but it's all just congestion, you know what it's like. So yeah, getting over that. But yeah, I'm going to do some gravel cleaning, so I'll come back when it's all done.